Hey there, and welcome to episode number 17 of Wrestling with the Mind. I'm your host, Matt Sigmund, health coach by day, pro wrestler by night. Today, I'm looking forward to sharing with you a very powerful chat I had with a friend, Jon Darwin, where we discuss the rare Huntington's disease and how this impacts people both on the physical side as well as the mental side. This was something I haven't heard too much on over the years, with it being so rare, but he's able to bring a lot of good information to the table in being someone who is impacted by this disease due to his wife having it and just some of the challenges they face each and every day. So I hope you all find some good value as well as some knowledge from this chat. But before we dive in, I would love to do a guided meditation just to get us into a good, relaxed mindset going into this talk today. If this is not your thing, you can fast forward a minute or so. But if this is something you'd be interested in, by all means, find a comfortable position, either sitting or lying down, and gently close your eyes. Take a deep breath in through your nose and slowly exhale through your mouth, releasing any tension or stress. Now bring your awareness to your body. Starting from the top of your head, slowly scan down to your toes, noticing any areas of tightness or discomfort. As you become aware of these sensations, imagine them melting away with each breath, leaving you feeling lighter and more relaxed. Next, shift your attention to your breath. Feel the cool air entering your nostrils as you inhale and the warm air leaving your body as you exhale. Focus on the sensation of your breath, allowing it to anchor you in the present moment. With each breath, imagine inhaling calm and positive energy and exhaling any negativity or tension. As you continue to breathe, envision a serene and peaceful place in your mind. It could be a beach, forest, or any other setting that brings you a sense of tranquility. Picture yourself there, fully immersed in the peaceful atmosphere. Take a few moments to enjoy the serenity of this place and allow yourself to rest in its calmness. When you're ready, gently bring your awareness back to the present moment. Wiggle your fingers and toes and slowly open your eyes. Carry this sense of peace and relaxation with you throughout your day. And now let's dive into our chat with Jon.
All right, Jon, how are you today?
I'm great, Matt. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, man, it's a pleasure. And I know we were talking right before I hit record. It's been a little while since we've seen each other, but I know you're staying still busy and active within wrestling and otherwise, so that's always good to hear. But thank you for carving out some time today to hop on here and chat about mental health, among other things.
Yeah, I really appreciate this platform. Not a lot of people are aware of Huntington's disease and how it can affect a person's mentality. So any chance I can get out to spread the word is always great.
Yeah, you reached out to me. We've been doing this podcast for a while, just talking a lot with wrestlers on mental health and things. And you had been a pretty good supporter of the show here over the last few months. And you reached out to me talking about Huntington's disease and just how it impacts, physical and mental side and being a caretaker around that as well and some of the challenges that it faces. And I thought this would be a great opportunity just to shed some light on that and discuss the mental health aspects of it all too.
Yeah, it is. And I'm not sure when the episode's going to air, but May is Huntington's Disease Awareness Month, which is why I tried to reach out during that month of all months.
Yeah, and I'm happy that we were able to make it out. And of course, this should be airing this week. So, barring any crazy tech issues like we've had in the past, but all should be good. Yeah, and so if you don't mind, let's smarten the listeners up here. I know some in the regional wrestling area will know you from just some of your commentary work, announcing that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Give us a little bit of a breakdown on you.
Okay, so I've been doing this for about 14 years now. I broke in as a ring announcer for a small West Virginia promotion that lasted about 4 weeks. And then
That's a good run for some.
yeah, great run sometimes. Then I started networking a little bit more. I ended up on an old NWA program, Mountain State Wrestling in Southern West Virginia for many years that eventually morphed into Mid-Atlantic, which lasted for two shows. So the good run for them.
Yeah.
And yeah, I also got a chance to meet you working with you in Tennessee for what is now Innovate Wrestling, was NWA Smoky Mountain. And then let's see, I've been going to North Carolina now for several years, AIWF Mid-Atlantic, most currently Ring Wars Carolina. I just passed my 3-year anniversary with the company. It's been a great time, a lot of opportunity to call some big matches. I do some work in the Southern Charleston, West Virginia area still for international combat sports. So I have lightened my schedule slightly, and that's primarily due to needing to be home closer for my wife who
Mm.
has this disease.
Yeah, and we've known each other, oh goodness, at this point, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 years, something along those lines.
Something like that,
And
yeah.
and I don't get to see you that often, but when I do, it's always a pleasure. But yeah, you
Yeah.
were talking about the Huntington's disease, and this is something that I've heard about in passing. I know it's pretty rare. I mean, if you're looking at the
Yeah.
grand scheme of things. So, give
hmm
us a little bit of an idea of what this looks like for a lot of people.
Well, let's start with the statistics because you're talking about how it's rare. We got about 320 some million Americans in the United States right now. There are only 41,000 symptomatic Americans, and my
Hmm.
wife is one of those people. Just
Okay.
41,000.
Yeah, and
Uh,
so out of 300 something million, only 41,000. That is wild. That's like struck by lightning almost chances.
yeah, it is. Now there are more than like around 200,000 that are at risk that haven't gotten tested. Um, Usually it's children, and it's very rare to test children unless they show symptoms.
Okay.
But even then, 200K is a drop in the bucket compared to all the higher number in the United States, the population.
Right. And
So,
so when this attacks the system, when a person gets this Huntington's disease, what tends to be the process here? What happens from the starting point?
okay, so this disease is very unique in the fact that it's passed genetically.
Hmm.
So let's start with that in the basic biology. There's something known as the CAG count. That's the cysteine, adenine, and guanine. And if it repeats, and which it does in me and you, but not in high numbers,
Hmm.
over 40 times, then you are diagnosed with Huntington's disease. The only way to catch it is genetically. It's not like something that can be bloodborne or airborne or anything like that. Uh, our son has a 50% chance of having it now.
Okay.
Um, so there's that huge risk. So yeah, and what it does is, and this is getting a little into the biology, but it affects what's known as the basal ganglia region of the brain. That's the region of the brain that controls movement and cognition. And it's a breakdown of nerve cells over time. Physicians and reporters describe it as like having ALS, Parkinson's, and dementia all together.
Mm. Yeah,
So,
and just to relate here with you a little bit, my grandfather on my dad's side, he was affected by Parkinson's disease, had it for over 20 years. He battled with it, and then, eventually it led to his death. So while I don't know the Huntington's disease side of it, I
mhm.
am used to that environment of some of these brain-related challenges that people
Mhm.
face disease-wise.
The other uniqueness about Huntington's disease, Matt, is that some people call it the snowflake disease.
Mhm.
And the reason why is it doesn't affect two people the same. Uh, I'll give you a perfect example of this. I'm in a Facebook Huntington's disease support group, and somebody was venting a little bit about how they were sad that they were watching their father lose their mind, and it was just heartbreaking. And how has everybody else gone through it? And one of the people commented, like, my mom is older. She still has her cognitive functions. She's a little bit slower. So some people will lose the ability to speak. Some people will just become rigid. So it's not like two people are going to have the same symptoms, which makes it even rarer when you think
Right.
about it.
Yeah. In general, how quickly does this progress for a lot of people?
A lot of that comes down to the CAG count. The higher the CAG count, the faster the symptoms uh, go on.
Okay.
Uh, for example, my wife is over 40. I can't remember the exact number. So, in an average person like that, usually you see your symptoms in the 30s to 40s. And if the CAG count is closer to the 40 number, you've got about 10, maybe 15 years.
Okay.
If it's a higher number, like especially in juveniles, juveniles have always a higher CAG count. It 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 spreads so rapidly or deteriorates you so rapidly that uh, it can be just 5 years or less
Mm.
sometimes.
Now, at the moment, I know, in this area, maybe not so much with the Huntington side of things, but Parkinson's, there has been some research and progress over the last few years where no quite cure yet, right? But there are
Right.
some treatments available that is helping relieve symptoms, extend life, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
What is available right now for those who are impacted from just a medical perspective?
From a medical perspective, a lot of it comes down to the neurologist and psychologist. There are psychiatric medications that can help. Um, like you're talking about with Parkinson's, are seeing better medications with the chorea. Um, it's just finding that combination for that particular person.
Hmm.
Um, I know that, and again, the standards are a little more different in Europe. The Bayer company has a subsidiary in France, and they're working with gene therapy
Okay.
because that's probably the best chance to have a cure for Huntington's disease
Okay.
is genetic resequencing.
Yeah.
Because you can give medications, you can keep it at bay for a certain period of time. At the
Hmm.
end of the day, though, Matt, it is incurable and
Right.
you will die from it. But there are obviously medical advancements. I'll give you a great one. Just even, and this applies to you because of your vocation. My wife and I did a study through the Ohio State University called Move to Improve. And it was a 12-week video series. You did a pre-test and a post-test. We went to Columbus, Ohio for the test. And you did the video twice a week. And it was just very simple yoga type movements and dance.
Hmm.
And there was great success, not only for me, but for my wife in movement and coordination because of these sort of opportunities.
Right. Yeah. And in Parkinson's too, which I imagine it might be similar to the Huntington side, physical activity. They have Parkinson's patients work on things like boxing a lot of the time because of
Hmm.
just keeping that hand-eye coordination up, keeping the body active, getting some movement in,
Right.
and staying focused on something. And it helps prolong lean muscle tissue and stop deteriorating as quickly. So yeah, I imagine maybe similar a little bit in that regard.
Yeah, it is. When we first met my wife's neurologist, one of the things she talked about was getting my wife active because there was a clinical trial done on uh, lab rats where they gave two animals Huntington's disease. One received a wheel, a toy, and was played with and interacted with on a daily basis. The other one
Hmm.
was meant to live their life as they see fit in a little area. And what they found is the animal that was more physically active seen a slower progression of the disease. And I'll give you another case in point with that. My wife rides the recumbent bike every day for 10 minutes. We did the Move to Improve. During the last appointment, her neurologist said, not only do I think you've slowed down her chorea, but you've kind of reversed it just a little bit as well.
Okay.
So there
Yeah.
is something to be
Wonderful.
said. Yeah, there's something to be said for the physical activity aspect of it, just
Now,
like in Parkinson's.
how long has your wife had this disease?
Well, that's a good question because, and you know this being married, you can tell sometimes when something's off with your spouse,
Right.
you know, like behavior wise or movement wise. And I, I noticed some things years before she got diagnosed, but the official diagnosis was February 5th, 2021. And I know that because I had a booking the next day and I took her with me. I said, we're going to North Carolina, we're going to the beach.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
so diagnosed wise, it's been 2021. It could be a few more years before that just because of movements and
Hmm.
balance issues that I witnessed.
Right.
Um,
And number one, I appreciate wholeheartedly you being so open and candid about all this and having to go
yeah.
through it. I know it's challenging.
Mhm.
From the mental health side of things, what are some of either the studies you've seen or cases or even with your wife? How has that been
Yeah.
impacted in general from what you've been able to gather?
This is probably the most difficult part because eh, you're, from a standpoint, you're watching your spouse die in front of you. And for the middle part, it, it's it's worse for my wife than the physical part.
Mm.
I'm now at a point where I'm handling all the finances in the house, um, and she's okay with that. She knows why. Um, if you and I were having a conversation, um, she needs to say something. If she doesn't interrupt us and say it, and there's a 5 minute gap there where we just wait, she will probably forget what she was going to ask you. And so, like, jeez, I apologize. This part's kind of tough.
No, you take your
Um,
time.
One of the things I see is like there is forgetfulness. She has multiple alarms on her cell phone just so she remembers to do things. Um, for a while there, she was starting to send me a text every now and again, and she said the reason she was doing that was because if she didn't send me it immediately, she would forget. Um, Another thing I've seen in her is is delayed cognition. There are times when I'll ask her a question, and for a while there, I thought I was just in the doghouse a lot because she wasn't talking to me. Because hey,
Yeah,
we're married
what
men.
have
We
you
know we
done,
ended up.
John?
Oh my gosh, how long do you got for the podcast?
Yeah.
Uh, but no, there is a delayed cognition, and if
Hmm.
anything, it's been an exercise for me in patience
Mm.
because of the fact that I now know, okay, she's processing this.
Right.
It takes her more time to process it. There have been, when we go to her neurologist every 6 months, we do I guess you would, it's like a dementia test or an Alzheimer's test where they give you the 3 words at the beginning
Right.
and they ask you a battery of questions going along.
Then try to
Um,
reflect on them towards the end.
well, no, it's like, okay, what is this? What state are you in? Who is that person? And then at the end, and there's some verbal mathematics questions. And then at the end, they ask you those 3 words or 4 words again to see if the retention's there. And there's been times where, and again, she knows I'm being open and honest about it, that there's times she's missed questions that she
Mm.
didn't pick up on, but I did.
Mm.
And you talk about mental health toughness to hold back and not cry because you
Right.
know that the person that you are with is not the person that was when you first met them. And
Hmm.
it's not a knock, it's what's happening.
Right.
And it is difficult. So yeah, so I know I got off on a tangent there compared to the question we started with.
No,
But
that's
yeah, there's a
okay. We
lot
can
of
take it in any direction we want. But yeah, and on that note too, it takes a toll mentally, and so many of these neuromuscular, neurological diseases do this. What does she do to help implement, some self-care and just kind of tackle some of the mental health challenges that come for her?
that's a great question. One of the things that's helped, and it's helped physically, not only physically but mentally, is she goes to Tai Chi twice a week.
Hmm.
So it helps with mindfulness.
Mm.
It helps with balance. So that we are very big in the Episcopal Church. We try to go every Sunday, and I notice her faith walk helps her with her mental aspect of it.
Yeah.
And the other part of it is, and when you know your time is limited on this planet, it becomes more valuable to
Mm.
you. So to help her with that mental health walk, she spends a ton of time with our son. It's not like, oh, I'll hang out with him next weekend, or you know
Right.
what, when he gets a little older, we can do this.
And
imperative.
that
Go ahead.
no, I was just going to say, because it just hit me, that is just such a strong example of strength through this, and just being able to look at that time as being so valuable. And we, truthfully, we all need to look at time as valuable because we're none of us are guaranteed to wake up in the
Right,
morning. But yeah, just
right.
seeing that as an opportunity to create special moments is just powerful.
Yeah, and I think that helps motivate her
Hmm.
a lot uh, because like he's in Hapkido, so she takes him once a week. I take him once a week. They have a lot more time because he's just finished school. She's home now for because she's disabled, so they have a lot of playtime together, a lot of snuggle time together,
Mm.
and it's just I think and I don't know much about the science. You probably would know more than me, being in exercise and physiology, that physical connection you have with somebody and what it does to you chemically. I think that's what keeps her spirits up, is just being able to hold her stunt.
I mean, I agree both just from a physical standpoint, a mental standpoint, a spiritual standpoint, and just being able to surround yourself with, a village, just your people, your close ones, can give you so much power and the ability to overcome a lot of challenges. What I'm also curious about is, she's going through this disease, and she's tackling it, and she's having to face some of these hard questions about the disease and life in general, and moving forward. You are on the other side of things where you are having to help navigate through these challenges, and you're having to
Yeah,
be a caretaker here and watch this happen to your spouse, and go through this challenging time, which I can't imagine how tough that must be for both of you on each end here. What do you
yeah.
do for self care during this time? How do you prioritize kind of yourself and just get to that point where you are able to function and process things and be able to take on the load that you have to?
Honestly, Matt, I don't. And that's probably a bad thing.
Mm,
Um, as much as I want to, I mean, I do have a monthly support group I go to, and I do have a counselor I see,
okay.
which helps. I don't have time to slow down and process it
Hmm.
because if I do or think about the what ifs, that's when I just start crying and break down and I can't really hold it together for those periods.
Right.
Like when I was putting the notes together today, I keep thinking there's a possibility that she could lose the ability to swallow. And we haven't um, had the final discussion yet, and this is one that we would keep private, is we're not 100% sure she wants the feeding tube.
Right.
And to uh, to think about that is it's challenging. It's extremely challenging. It's exhausting. Um, I think about if with the end of life, um, there's a chance she could become nonverbal,
Mm,
and I don't know how I handle it. Um, there's a chance she's going to need, well, not a chance, she's going to need full-time health care at some point.
right.
Um, and I've already started thinking about like, okay, I need to make sure I have enough, and this is sort of the reason I'm on autopilot so much. I need to make as much as I can now. So when she gets to that point, if Medicare will pay for me to be the uh, her caretaker, which varies from state to state, that's what I want to do. And I also want to have enough money that I can pay the bills and
Right.
like if
Survive.
not survive, yeah, survive for
Yeah.
myself and my son and her
Hmm.
to the point where after she passes, which to have to think you're going to bury your spouse is probably one of the most emotionally difficult things I think I've gone through. I, I'm like, at that point, if that happens, then I'll go back to work and I don't care what happens. I'll work to
Hmm.
the day I die if I have to financially. But, and there's a chance that she could outlive me. Um, we don't know what science is going to do in the next decade or two. I mean,
And
just think of the
that's
stuff
very
we've seen
true.
in the last 20 years.
In the last little bit, some of the advances just on the Parkinson's side, I'm not
Yeah.
saying, my grandfather lived pretty long life, and the
Hmm.
Parkinson's impacted his ability to move around and do daily tasks, especially towards the last few years. But just the advancements that they've made in that over the last 5 years, over the last 10 years,
Yeah.
could have maybe not so much maybe extended, but maybe better quality, perhaps.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so there's you never know what's going to happen tomorrow.
Right.
And like you said, some of the other things, like with the activity, being able to improve function
Yeah.
and even reverse some symptoms or whatever might be the case at the moment. The possibilities are truly limitless.
No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. No, what I was going to say was I do have some support groups. I mean, that monthly support group, uh, I'm trying not to get away too much from that because it's
Right.
a confidential group.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
There's a gentleman who's in the same situation I am,
Hmm.
except he's at end of life stage.
Okay.
And we skipped over the stages, but end of life is basically that person who has Huntington's disease cannot do anything for themselves, period. And at that point, you got to start making choices. Um, I thought about trying to pull him aside privately and go, look, I need a mentor. This is going to be a tough road for me to navigate.
Hmm.
And I'm hoping that he will be responsive to that. Um, I'm also involved with a nonprofit that helps raise money for awareness. And knowing people in that organization has helped. Um, because there's just so few people that have it. You reach out to those that are experiencing it and try to connect with those people because it is somewhat of a similar experience. And I'm sorry I got sidetracked again.
No, no, it's like I said, this can go any which direction. And
Yeah.
as we do get kind of on the tail end here of the chat for today, what are some of the resources that people can look into this? Are there, solid websites that they can get more
Yes,
information around this? Where can we point people?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you want to learn the most about it, you want to go to hdsa.org. That is the Huntington's Disease Society of America. They are the they are the go-to resource. They have all the Centers for Excellence listed on their website. They have a basic breakdown of um, the disease and the stages that we didn't get into today. Um, there's hdbuzz.net that talks about the clinical trials. Um, HDSA does have a YouTube channel, and every year they do a convention. And since COVID, they have had a virtual component. So even if you have a day or just an hour and you go, hey, I'd like to learn more about that, you can attend the convention free of charge. If you want to go back and look on it and learn more from a basic angle, there are some great breakout sessions from the previous year in Atlanta
Okay.
that I attended that um, that really get to that simple level,
Hmm.
especially of things to be a caretaker. I'll give you another thing real quick because we talked about this, and there was a New York Times article about it that the doctor referenced, which is sometimes, even as the caretaker, your person is not going to do what you advise, but there's that one person, and I laugh because we all have that one person in our lives
Hmm.
that if they say it to you,
Right.
it registers.
Yeah.
It registers versus if because the support group that was telling one person in the support group was saying, "Hey, I took my parent and I was saying something, but for some reason, when the doctor repeated it,
It clicked. It made sense, or they decided, oh, okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So there's little breakout sessions like that that are helpful, and some of the videos aren't that long. I mean, it's just very simple. HDSA.org is going to be your absolute go-to resource if you do really want to do a dive into this. The other one I'll give you that has some information is the one that I volunteer for, which is championsforhd.org. And they raise money for, like I said, for awareness to buy medical equipment for people, sometimes to help with the bill. Last year, Ring Wars Carolina was nice enough to help me put on a fundraiser for that organization.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So they're also a good resource. Plus, the president of the organization also hosts a podcast, and she is an HD patient. Her sister passed away, and I'm not saying anything out of school here because she's always said all this stuff on her podcast.
Right. Very
Her father had it. Yeah, her father had it. Her sister passed from it as juvenile HD. It helped the president of the organization, Shelby, write a book that's available on Amazon, so you can explain it to children better as well.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I don't even think about that component of it. But ever so often I'm starting to, because I've got a 5-year-old daughter. And so some of these situations, it does start to come into my mind of how do you tell your kid this or explain. So that's good to have
Yeah,
that resource.
yeah. My son is 7.
Mhm.
He knows mom's sick,
Right.
but to understand all the nuances and components and idiosyncrasies that go into it,
Hmm.
he's not cognitively ready for that.
Right.
Um, but just using the books like Brave Brianna are a good foundation to explain it to our son or any
Gotcha.
child for that
Yeah.
matter.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I appreciate you carving out this time. I would love to get you back on more down the line to where we could dive a little
Yeah,
more into this and just some
yeah.
more of the mental health side of it too. Appreciate you being so open about things. Like I said on the front end, it takes a lot of strength to talk about, much
Yeah.
less to be a champion of and support and get the word out there. So much appreciated as always. Where can we find you on social media or anything like that?
Okay. I'm not as active on Twitter. Usually it's a cross post,
Okay.
underscore Jonathan Darwin or Jon Darwin. Instagram is Jonathan Darwin. My Facebook page is probably the best way to reach me. I still believe I have like 1,200 friend slots left. If anybody wants to
Yeah.
try to help me get to the number. I mean, I don't have heat seeker numbers, so but I'm close.
You
So,
don't want some of
but yeah,
those people.
but
Yeah.
but honestly, Facebook and Instagram are the best ways to reach me.
All right. Well, thank you for coming on today, and look forward to chatting with you more soon.
Thank you so much, Matt, and thank you for this opportunity to spread this information to the masses.
Absolutely.
I just want to thank Jon yet again for coming on here, being so open and sharing a little bit about his story with Huntington's disease. Go to some of the resources that he shared within our chat. See how you can gain more knowledge on this and help others along the way. And as always, if you are having a challenging time, if you are struggling, there is help out there. There are many wonderful resources and apps where you can connect with therapists or others, work through some of the challenges that you're facing. There's always someone to talk to, and help is available. You can text or call 988 for the Suicide and Crisis Hotline and speak with somebody today. Now, I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your week. Get out there and do something amazing with today.